Hello, mamas. Welcome to Coffee and Calm with Amanda, where we have real talk for moms who crave coffee, peace, and permission to break the rules. I'm your host, Amanda Schenkenberger, second generation homeschooler, mom of four boys, and author of Overwhelmed. And this is your space to breathe, laugh a little, and find encouragement for your homeschool journey. And today, I have a wonderful guest who is all about building strong, faith-filled families and really putting the heart back into homeschooling and homemaking. I have loved her books, been inspired on multiple occasions by these books, and I would love to welcome Katie J. Trent. Thank you so much for being here, Katie.
Oh, thanks, Amanda. I just love you and I love the way you support homeschool families. And it's such an honor to be here encouraging mamas. You're talking about my favorite things homeschooling, coffee, and Jesus. Like it's a win win win. And mamas, motherhood.
Awesome. Awesome. So, for those of you who don't know who Katie is, tell us a little bit about your books, how long you've been homeschooling, how many kiddos you got, all the standard stuff.
All the stuff. Well, as she said, my name's Katie, and I am a homeschool mom of two. We have a middle schooler and then an elementary age student. And we have actually been homeschooling for 9 years. This is our ninth year. And I started out actually as an elementary school counselor in a public school when the Lord convicted me and called us to homeschool. And so we were planting our first church and doing all the things. And we flipped our whole life upside down in order to say yes to God and go on this journey, and it has been incredible. My background is also in counseling, so I've worked a lot with children and teens and young adults. And as you mentioned, I've got three books. They're all interactive devotionals for moms. First one, Dishing Up Devotions, is actually specifically written for homeschool moms. So if you're looking for devotions that like hit those pain points of like, yes, she gets it and she's in the struggle with me, that's a great one on family character building. And then I have Recipes for a Sweet Child, which takes all of the things we experience with our kids that are common emotional, behavioral, and relational struggles that we, hello, all face during homeschool days. They all come out, right? Sometimes all at once. And so that's a great one to incorporate to your homeschool to really help you teach your kids how to overcome those struggles, very interactive. And then a Mary Bride Adventure, which is my Christmas devotional because I love all things Christmas. And so we do what we call Christmas schooling, which is really focusing on fun family activities centered around the birth of Jesus through the month of December. And so that's a fun way to do that. I'm also the founder of Family Faith Building Academy and Community. And Family Faith Building Academy is just a discipleship resource for parents to help you know, how do I disciple my kids from start to finish, so it's just there. So I love creating resources, and homeschooling has given me that freedom and flexibility to just do so much more.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I want to say, having been all the way through like Mary and Bright Adventure, sometimes when we get resources, they're not very flexible, but the way you've structured your devotionals and especially Mary and Bright, it's like, oh, if we're having a hard day, we could just do this one little thing. Or if we have a full day, we could do everything in the devotional. And so I love how just like applicable the books are and what like I can take what I want from it, and it's bendable and flexible for us homeschool moms. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. They're meant to be open and go, right? And I don't know about you. I call myself a Pinterest dropout. Like, I'm not the Pinterest mom. I'm not like the fun, planning out all the things mom. Like, I'm holding on by the seat of my pants and trying to survive most days. And so I needed open and go resources, something that I could just pull off the shelf. And so that's really what I try to create for other moms.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's so good. So good. Okay, so let's jump into your story, Katie. As a homeschool mom, so many of us have felt overwhelmed. And it's not just like, oh, this is a lot to learn. It goes like really deep, sometimes affecting our identity, what like we're starting to worry if we're doing enough, or generally what like genuinely wondering, am I going to screw up my kids by doing this homeschool thing? And so I'd love to hear about a time that you felt a deep sense of overwhelm as a homeschool mom and how you walked through that.
Absolutely. I'm not a second generation homeschool. I'm first generation. And I didn't know, like, homeschooling wasn't really a thing that I was aware of when I grew up. We knew when we were in youth ministry, one kind of weird homeschool family. Like, that was all that I'd ever encountered. By the way, they're all successful and amazing young people now, just saying. But there was nobody there to be like, hey, this is this whole world. Because I think sometimes when we jump into homeschooling, we think it's just going to be like school, right? Like it's just going to be we're carrying on. And I'm very organized a lot of times. Like I like I'm task oriented. I want to check off all the lists, give me worksheets and I'm happy to just blow through those. But so I entered into homeschooling my kids. My daughter, she was just in pre-K, so she was 4. And then we had our baby. My son's about 2.5 years behind her. And so we started with her. And really, I'd say we started in kindergarten. And I did like probably all the things that everybody who knows nothing about homeschooling does. Like I tried to recreate school at home. I'm a researcher, so I researched all these different curriculums and I found a very expensive, sort of a box curriculum, thinking like this is going to be great. My kindergartner is going to learn everything a kindergartner should know, and all these things. And so we started out, and of course, like my kids are nothing like me. Maybe mamas, you can relate, but I had a very artsy, creative daughter who wanted nothing to do with black and white worksheets. She had no interest in this curriculum that I picked out. And so, we're going through and, we get through kindergarten. Anybody I think can pretty much survive kindergarten. But then, we moved into first grade and I think it was probably 2020, 2021. So we'd been going for several years, just trying this thing, trying to figure out. I felt a lot of pressure. Maybe you did too, of like, I've got to prove that I'm going to be a good homeschool mom, that this was the right decision. And don't ask me who I was trying to like prove this to, because it wasn't like I was facing a lot of like external pressure. So I think really a lot of it was my own, right? Like I've got to justify this decision. And so, we're trying to do it. And my daughter ended up with some learning struggles. Reading was an extreme challenge, writing was an extreme challenge. And so things were just not going. There was a lot of tears, a lot of frustration, and fast forward, we're still, trudging along, trying to do all these things, trying to go. We went to like a homeschool convention and that helped a lot, but it also
Mm.
felt very overwhelming, right? Like there's so much that I didn't know that I didn't know. And so, I'm trying to like change my whole paradigm and shift into this new mindset. And we're going through, and one day I just hit a wall. It was like, nothing was working. I mean, my house was a mess. My laundry was never done. My kids were not happy and enjoying it. My husband was like, what are you doing? Like it just was not going well. And I was trying to work on my first book at the time, and we were doing ministry, and I had all these plates that I was juggling. And so one day I went to my husband and I was just like, I'm overwhelmed. I cannot do this anymore. Like, we've got to find a solution. Help me identify what's the one thing that you think that we should take off my plate that is going to help ease this. I can't do all these things. And I'm thinking he's going to say something with the ministry or something with, work, or, hey, you don't have to do the dishes and laundry and household stuff anymore, something like he's going to say something. And the thing that he said, he looked at me and he said, Katie, out of all those things you're doing, there's only one of them that makes you miserable. There's only one of them that I see, like you're so stressed out, and it's just not working. It's like, and that's homeschooling. And can I
Hmm.
tell you, Amanda, that was like just like a punch in the gut. I mean, I burst into tears because that was the one thing out of everything that we were doing that I knew was important. I knew that that was what God had called me to do. And so I was like, where do I go from here? What do I even do? Like, how do we navigate this? Because you're right. This is the thing that is making everything else so hard. And so we just had to step back and we took kind of a reset year and we said, okay, let's just pray through this. Like, something we're doing is not working. And it began this journey of shifting our mindset and looking at doing things different ways and kind of getting out of the box of what I thought homeschooling was supposed to look like and be like, and figuring out that we could actually do things that worked for our family in our time, our schedule. I didn't have to complete all the curriculum. I didn't have to even obey the curriculum, right? Like I could pick and choose, we're doing a curriculum now, we've been doing it for 3 years for a 1 year curriculum, and we just pick it up and choose. Like we like it, we like the books, but we're just doing it our own way. And so that for me was really that tipping point of saying, it's not homeschooling that's the problem. It's how I'm trying to homeschool. And also
Yeah.
acknowledging that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. We all feel overwhelmed. What do we do about it? And I know
Mm.
that's something that you have experienced as well.
Yeah. Oh man, gosh, that sounds like you said, it was like a gut punch, but like a knife right to the heart. Like, ow. Because that's the one thing I'm supposed to be doing. And honestly, so for the mom who is listening, because I've heard this more than once from moms that I coach, like, I know I'm called to homeschool, or, like this is non-negotiable, but it is making me feel miserable. You said you guys decided to do a reset year. But how did you go from, asking your husband, well, what should I take off my plate? And then he's like, this thing. And you're like, no, not that thing.
Anything else?
Anything else? What did you shift? And in that reset year, what was like one of the biggest things you did that helped you move out of the box?
Well, I think the first thing is just like putting aside the curriculum, saying like this, we're not going to sit to the schedule. We're not going to try and do this. And the first thing I did from that is I put my house in order. So
Mm.
I'm somebody who I can live with chaos. If I pull my camera around, like you can see my office has chaos. If you went in my bedroom, my poor husband who does not like chaos, like I have things on the floor that pile up, I get like I don't have to have everything clean and organized, but I can tell you when especially trying to do a reset, clean your spaces. So right now we've been homeschooling actually since July, but we're about to start co-op, and so we're doing another reset in our home and our homeschool room. Things piled up, so that's my kids' job today. Is we're cleaning up that room, we're cleaning up the spaces, because when you can get a breathable space, it's a lot easier to do the other things. And so we started with just that, like getting some routines and rhythms. I really shifted focus to teach my kids how to do chores and how to really take part in those other things that need done each day, but were taking up too much of my time. And
Yeah.
for those of you trying to train kids on chores, it takes a lot more effort on the front end. It is frustrating, but it is so worth it because now fast forward, my kids do all the dishes and the cleaning downstairs and the bathrooms and trash and all of those daily things. They do laundry, so they're taking care of those things. So I can create resources and I can homeschool and we can do the other things that are important. My daughter cooks most of our meals, so she'll sit there and make breakfast for us. She was doing this at even the age of 9 and 10. Of
Mm.
she'll make breakfast and I'm reading aloud at the kitchen table, and she'll make lunch and same thing, I'm doing a read aloud and then we'll sit together. So teaching the kids how to do the chores took another thing off of my plate. And then it was looking at building those relationships and connections. I always tell people like your relationship with your kids has got to be like a number one top priority, because if you have a strong relationship with your kids, if they trust you and value you, and you have that connection, then they're going to respond better when you need to bring correction and when you need their help with things. And so we focused on just family fun and, establishing those connections. And I talk to my kids. That's the other thing I think sometimes as homeschool moms, we don't ask, like, what do you like? What don't you like? What's hard? How can I help? What do you need from me? Just asking some good questions can really help you to identify. So for my daughter, we realized like she hated black and white worksheets. So enter Lapbooks, which if you
Yeah.
don't know what a Lapbook is, it's cutting and pasting and coloring and gluing and making this beautiful visual. She loved to do that. Now, again, Pinterest dropout, it's not my favorite thing. So we had to limit that, right? So we did one or two a month, not all the time with everything because I couldn't handle that. But it got her engaged, And so we just started taking these baby steps and testing things out and we mix things up. Go outside to the park and we started doing homeschool at the park on nice days. And we mixed up when, because the other thing is we think that like school has to happen between like normal school hours, but our family, we're night owls. And like I cannot, you guys are going to think I'm horrible. I can't get my kid to bed before 11 or 12, like from the time he was young. We've tried all the things and it just didn't work. And so I realized like They really do better if they have some time to just actively play together. No screens or anything, but they just get to have fun together as siblings before we start. They're so much more engaged. So oftentimes we'd start like after lunchtime. And that was better for me because after I'm trying to homeschool all day, trying to like put on that creative hat and write a book does not go well. It does not.
Mm-mm.
But if I give my first brain in the morning to doing that, then I can homeschool, and that takes a different kind of energy. And so it's really just those little steps, I think, along the way that built this really beautiful journey that we're on. And we still have hard days. We're in, the ninth year. And I think the other mistake we make as moms is we think that like we're going to figure it out and it's just going to stay. But
Yeah.
every season is different, and your kids are growing and they get new subjects and different things. And so I think you have to like put off that mindset that you're going to arrive and really embrace that homeschooling is a journey where you're growing and they're growing, and embrace that journey together.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many good nuggets. I hope, like, go ahead and like rewind this. That was so full of amazing things. And I want to second what you just said there, for the last bit, that we think we're going to arrive, but then our children are always growing and learning new things and hitting next levels. And even myself, we've really been focusing on writing essays because as a second generation homeschooler, that was something I wish my parents had focused more on. I mean, like I tell everybody, I'm like, yeah, I wrote a book, but that was hard. That was hard. Like,
I still can't diagram a sentence, and I'm like a multi-published best-selling author. So, yes,
yes, okay, everybody, just like listen to that. Your children don't
there's
need
hope.
a diagram.
I'm learning alongside my kids. I'm getting better. I can identify most parts of speech, but I'm still pulling out the book of, let's look and see what the
I'm not sure
answer
what that
says.
is. I love it. I love it. But I was even realizing as we're going into writing essays, I was like, oh, we haven't talked about Greek or Latin roots. That's really helpful for me when I'm trying to understand a word. Yeah, oh, I should find some resources for that. So even I'm still like realizing as my kids get older, I'm like, oh, that's a gap I want to fill. That's important. I use that as a life skill. So just 1 second, we don't arrive. Um, so thinking back about a couple of the things you guys shifted, I want to hone in a little bit on the chore piece because I think this is so, so important because I see moms very often who do not want to slow down on the curriculum, put it aside, and pour into this delegation and teaching of chores. And you elaborated on it. And one of the things that I find, I don't know if this is if it helps you, but I think of it as my kids are my employee. And if I was going to teach somebody how to clean the bathrooms or I was going to have a housekeeper, I would be like, okay, here's what I like. This is the depth that I want it, and then this is how I want it to look at the end. And here's the process I go through, and then showing them, then doing it with them, and then watching them, and then checking in on them. That is school in and of itself. Right? So what would you say to a mom who's like, I don't want to slow down on the curriculum, but I need to move some things off my plate? What would you say to her?
Well, I'd say I think the greatest myth that we believe is that the curriculum is what we actually need to teach our kids. But the reality is, if we teach our kids how to learn and encourage a love of learning in them, then they're going to learn how to do anything, especially in the day and age we live in where they can watch a YouTube video or Google. We have AI coming out. We have all of these resources to support them in the learning. We need to teach them how do I, logic, how do I discern if this real or not, some of those things. But more than anything else, we need to teach them the life skills because that's truly what sets our kids apart is that they know how to be a very successful, high functioning adult. How do they interact with their world? How do they have skills that schools are not teaching? And I don't know about you, Amanda. So, well, I do know because you did not go to a public school. So let me tell you my experience in a public school. I was a straight A student. Aced all the tests. I did everything. I have a master's degree, which is kind of one of the funniest jokes in our house. Is my husband will be like, and she has a master's degree, people, when it's something that like I don't know how to do because I passed all the tests, but nothing went into long-term memory.
Mhm.
And so I don't know most of those things. So over the last 9 years, I've learned more alongside my kids than I ever learned in all of my schooling. That's
Yeah.
not what they need. And, working with all the teens and young adults we have through ministry and counseling, can I tell you that they don't know how to function? They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to do basic life skills, manage a house, any of those things. And so, while the lie is that you need to get through a curriculum book, your kids are going to learn to read, they're going to learn to write, they're going to learn to do math. The other stuff is just like icing on the cake. So they don't have to come into this world with a million facts. They need to know how to interact and thrive and succeed in their world. And so I think that's the biggest difference is we've got to be focusing on that with our kids. And it shows. I mean, people meet my daughter and she has got an incredible vocabulary. She is so smart, she is so logical, she is so compassionate. She has so many skills. You would never look at her and be like, oh, she's dyslexic and dysgraphic and has all of these struggles because she has learned to focus on her strengths and overcome a lot of those things. And, it's amazing what God is doing in her. And she's only 12.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And when my kids talk and they use a better vocabulary than me, and I'm like, I'm doing this right. Like,
Absolutely. We had a young man that lived with us that had gone through hard things. And, he was an adult. My kids were little. And Kendra would say things and he was like, what does that even mean? And he's like, I don't think you're using that word right. And then we'd be like, actually, no, she's correct. That's a word, and so even from a young age, she knew things that this 20 something year old had no clue about.
yeah, that's so cool. And I want to make sure you know, I went to public high school. So I had both experiences.
Okay.
And I was the same way. Like straight A student, like graduated top of my class, like all the things. And none of that stuff helped me. Everything that I lean on as a homeschool mom and teach. Oh, it's what I learned when I was homeschooling. And I think one of the coolest things about homeschooling is that our kids have the opportunity to learn themselves, right? Your daughter Kendra has had time to explore her strengths, and she's been affirmed in those strengths and given opportunities to grow those strengths so that she can show up in the way God has made her, which He's prepared good works for her to walk in, specifically suited for her. And she can show up better than any other kid can because she's had that time to explore herself. Love.
Absolutely. And you start to see that, when you just embrace this and like take off that pressure, the compliments I get on my kids always surprise me because I'm like, wow, you think it's an issue. We've moved across the country. My daughter's been in 11 homes in her life, so we've had a lot of seasons. I write books. So we've had a lot of times where we've really put aside curriculum or, we haven't focused on those things and we've just adjusted to things happening in life. And yet, there you wouldn't see that, you would never know that, and that I think is that fruit of just embracing that and building those strong relationships and communicating and having fun and making memories. My kids would never want to leave homeschool,
Mhm.
never. They love it. And if we had gone back to that overwhelmed mom, like if I had continued down that path, that would not be true. They would be like, please, dear Lord, send me to school.
Send
But
me
now,
away.
yeah, they understand the value of it because they see that and they experience it. And we just live life and they learn new things. And it's amazing. My daughter at youth last week was talking to some 13-year-old boy and telling him his business plan was horrible. And she gave him this whole, like, this is, he's like, I think I want to have a shoe business. And so she laid out for him all the things that he needed to think and consider to have a successful business, and she's 12. Like, who does that?
Oh my goodness. I think I would like your daughter already.
I know you would. You guys would have a lot of fun.
Oh man. Firstborn daughters. We're a lot of energy.
She is a lot.
I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. This has been such an amazing conversation. So many gold nuggets in here, Katie. Um, I want to touch on one more final thing because you talked about building your relationship with your kids, having fun, talking to your kids. So for a mom who is getting a lot of pushback from her kiddos, lots of resistance, whether it's in homeschooling, doing chores, or, trying to get them off screens, there's just a lot of resistance and potentially some resentment. built up. What would you say to that mom who's like, I feel like I've lost touch with my kid and we are just struggling?
I'd say first off, know that there's hope. With God, there is never an irredeemable point that you get to, so He can take anything. And I think when you get to that point, the first thing to do is pray, and
Mm.
ask God for wisdom and strength and forgiveness and help to guide those conversations. But then you humbly go to your kid and you just say, you know what? I have to apologize to you. I have messed up and I am so sorry. And I value our relationship so much and I want to work on it. Will you forgive me? Are you willing to walk this out? And so when you start from that humble place, your kids are going to be much more receptive. Then you have those conversations, ask good questions, see what it is that for them is hard, listen, you know, and just start that open dialogue. And you'll notice, one of the reasons I write my books the way I do and I include the discussion questions in the last couple books and moving forward is because sometimes we just don't know the question to ask. And so, like, if you're in that place, Recipes for a Sweet Child might be a book that you just want to grab because in there, if you're dealing with disobedience or lying or jealousy or whatever it is that they're really struggling with, there's a lesson in there. There's a devotion for you. There's questions to ask your kids. There's fun activities. So you can start, just like reigniting the fun in your life and building that relationship. And then there's a recipe that ties in with a little biblical truth. So just a lot of ways to interact. I don't know about you, Amanda, but when I'm doing an activity with my kids, they're much more open to hear what I have to say and the conversation flows. If I'm sitting face to face and saying, we need to talk about this behavior, they're like, shut down.
Yeah.
But, if we're baking something in the kitchen, the conversation flows. If we're planting in the garden, the conversation flows. And so look for opportunities to just connect with your kids in those ways. And you'll be amazed at how quickly things turn around.
Yeah. Oh, that is such good advice. I love that. I want to add on to that, like, or if you're driving, like in the car, I say the front seat is mine and I will invite you into it because I don't want them to fight over it. I will invite you into it. So if I want to have a conversation, say, hey, why don't you sit in the front seat with me? And they're like, oh, I get to be in the front. I'm like, yes, you do. And I also want to second Katie's questions in her books. This is like my literal favorite part of your books. Like if I did one thing out of the Marian Bright devotional, it would be the questions that you have because they are so rich and so good. So I would definitely second what Katie said. If you don't know the right questions to ask, you feel like at a loss, grab Recipes for a Sweet Child so you have a place to start because those questions, oh, that's like where the relationship and the love is at.
Aw, thank you. I agree. Those are Holy Spirit questions. Let me just say, because sometimes when we go back through the book, I'm like, that's a good question, or this is amazing. I'm like ministering to myself. I'm like, I don't even remember writing that. So thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board. I'm like, wow, I wrote that. That was really good advice. I should follow that.
Yes, I love your book. It is such an incredible resource. And I know we really haven't talked about it, but hold it up for everyone because let me just tell you, my friends, this is the book that I wish I had had. Like, if me back in the beginning had had that book, it would have looked so different. I mean, she just walks you through everything. And those of you who already know Amanda and love her know, I mean, it's her in a book. I mean, you just feel like you are truly having coffee with her and she understands you and sees you. And so I'm so excited. I've already been recommending it to friends when they're like, I'm going to homeschool.
Oh,
Let me tell you.
thank
So
you.
get her
Thank
book if you don't
you.
have it yet.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Katie. Okay, so if somebody's like, man, I love what Katie has to say. I want to learn more about her. Where can they go?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, which is katiejtrent.com, and I have tons of resources on there. You can follow me on social media at katiejtrent on like Facebook and Instagram. I'm always happy to answer questions, support you however I can. You'll find all my resources on there. Amanda's actually going to link a freebie. I have a homeschool survival kit, which has got Lots of resources, strategies that I've used to overcome stressful days, and a little planner and scripture journal and all sorts of things. And we didn't talk about this before, Amanda, but just where our discussion went, I also have a life skills bundle that
Oh,
actually has
yeah.
101 life skills that you need to teach your kids, and it breaks them down by categories. And it also has like planning sheets if you're wanting to try and say, like, have I covered this topic? And then you can add more to it. But that was just kind of like general sense of these are great things to work on as your kids get older. And so that's just at katietrent.com/life skills, all one word. But you can get that
Okay.
download as well. And that'll give you a place to start to say, okay, these are some things I want to focus on. And I want to encourage you, heavily invest in character building and life skills in your homeschool. Like, prioritize those over so much else, and you will be so glad that you did.
Yeah, I 100% second that. I think that is the best thing we can invest in. And when we teach our children to love learning, that's what's carried me so far because I loved learning. And when now we live in this day and age where everything's at the tip of our fingers, your kid will be able to learn whatever they need if they love learning and they've had the time and learn their process of how they learn best. And that's the best, like one of the best gifts we can give our kids as homeschool moms.
Amen.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Check out Katie's homeschool survival kit and the life skills bundle. I'll have those links below because those are going to put you on the right track and give you the resources you need to keep moving forward with confidence and moving out of being overwhelmed. Thanks for joining me, Katie.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.